Hello everyone, Ceri the Crafter here, that's C-E-R-I the Crafter, and I'm here with an unplanned video. I think it was a week before last, I did a video on painty envelopes. I promised in this video that I would actually do a video on how I do my window painty envelopes. And then a comment came in from this video saying, but Ceri, what if we don't have a gel plate? What if we don't have equipment? Well, instead of trying to explain in a comment, I thought, why don't I just do a completely equipment-free video on how to do painty envelopes? So I'm going to do that in this video, although what I'm going to do is I think I'm only going to do 6 envelopes, just 6. They're all the same size, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they're just regular envelopes, the ones you'd have greetings cards in. If you haven't seen the other 2 videos, there'll be links in the description box below. A quick run through if it's the only video you're going to see. As you're working with paint and moisture, this glue may come undone. You can just stick it down again once it's fully dried. I usually use art glitter glue. Also along here you've got a line of glue which needs to be dealt with, which is one of the first things we're going to do. So I can't remember who asked for this or who made the comment, because I just don't remember. But I'm hoping to make this one, as I said, there's only 6 envelopes, so it's not going to be that long. I've also got some drop paper down, because with this process, it's all about working, well, let's consider it slightly messily, should we say. So I'm going to start by dealing with these. So I'm going to bring in some white paint, just white acrylic paint, onto my surface. I'm going to use this as my palette because, to be honest with you, at the end of the day, this drop paper, which is what this is called, will probably be very arty and covered in designs as well. So I'll just be able to use it as background papers, or even start for another set of envelopes or tags or something like that. But what I need to do first of all is actually just start getting some paint in or on these. So I'm sure you will recognize one of these. This is actually just a sponge for doing the dishes. So I'm just going to tear a piece off. I'm tearing instead of cutting because it'll give me more interesting shapes as I go along. So I'm going to leave my paintbrush of white there. I might use it as I go along. Let's see, what colours do we want to use? Let's start off with some green. As I said, I'm just going to use this as my palette as well as everything else. I'm not looking to cover the entire envelope. I'm just going to come in and put stuff on. Now, you may think, oh, I can do that with a wet wipe. You can do this with a wet wipe, but be really careful that you don't continue rubbing the surface of the paper. It's only thin paper. It is very likely to start balling up and tearing. Now, using a sponge does mean, as I'm dabbing it on and off, I will get quite a thin coating, and that's almost dry already. So let's put that to one side. I'm going to keep going with the different colours until I run out of the colour, and then I'm going to change to another one. There's not going to be any foam stamps used in this. I do need a bit more green because I need to go onto the back. There's not going to be any foam stamps used in this because I'm considering those as equipment that someone may not have. But what I am going to do is I'm going to do some mark making with things that you would find around the house, or things you can make quite easily with very little supplies. So I think a lot of the time we get caught into this feeling that I've got to have this equipment, I've got to have that equipment, I can't do it unless I do this, that and the other. Actually, when I was growing up, I mean, I was born in 1960. Let's find another paint. Let's use this one. What's this one? Aqua green. I was born in 1960. The amount of equipment and supplies that are around today were nowhere near in evidence when I was a kid. I mean, well, we didn't have money to buy them anyway, but there wasn't anything like there is nowadays. So you had to make do. And I think a lot of the time nowadays, we forget that we're creative people. We can make stuff. We can just get on and do it without other people having to design something and then charge us money for it. I think if we just look around ourselves, we'd be surprised how many gadgets we have that, you know what, You could have done that with something else completely easily, but we all get into it. It's the commercialism of the industry that is the art world. It's just unfortunate that we get pulled into it and we then spend our money when really I'd rather save the money on the mundane stuff and spend the money on those special paints or those special inks that I wanted instead. Because I know I can't make paint and I can't make ink from scratch, but I would rather have nice paints and inks than I would a whole ton of supplies that maybe I use once in a blue moon. I mean, I do know there's a couple of things I hate to admit in my store, in my studio here, that I've actually bought over a year ago and I've still not even taken them out of the packet. But at the time, I absolutely had to have that thing. So I think I'm not the only one. I'm absolutely certain I'm not the only one. So as you can see, I'm just working my way around. I'm just putting patches of colour down. I'm not concerned where. I'm just trying to get patches of colour onto this surface. We will be using different techniques for putting stuff on, I assure you, but I like sponges. I use sponges a lot. Right, I've got one more envelope and I've kind of run out of paint, so I need a little bit more paint. Not a huge amount. Someone did ask me what the special paints were I was using for these, the other envelopes. To be honest, you could use any craft paints. You could even use a set of children's paints to do this. I know this can be done with watercolours. I know it can be done with inks. I know this can be done with other mediums. It's just acrylic happens to be what I'm more familiar with, what I like to use. So let's just take some of that off that brush and just take some of that off there. I can just dab that around and get something somewhere else on this envelope. So I think we've got the start of something. So let's start and work another way of getting paint onto a surface other than this. I will keep this to one side though. Right, I'm going to come in with some pink this time. And let's have a look. Right, I've got a store card or a plastic card or a gift card, whatever you wish to call it. Now, if you've seen my other videos on making envelopes, you will remember I said I don't mind if there's white space on an envelope, and I don't. I mean, having bits of white space left over gives the eye somewhere to rest. Covering everything isn't essential. It is what it is. I mean, if you choose to cover everything, that's absolutely fine. No one's going to judge you for it. There are no rules. You do you. But I just want to get some colour on this at some rate so that I've got a working surface to start putting other stuff upon. I'm not a great lover of pink, but I love the musician or the singer, but as far as paint and inks go, I'm not a keen lover of pink. However, pink does seem to go remarkably well with some of the most strangest colour combinations I've done. So putting green and pink together, I don't know whether I would normally have thought about that, but you know what? In this instance, it's working for me. Now, if you feel the envelopes are getting too wet, then just stop and actually put a hairdryer on them, which I will do shortly with these, because you don't want the paint sticking to a surface and then pulling off the coating of the envelope, because that will happen. And then you're having to deal with other problems, which you don't really need to deal with. Now, I think there's a little bit on there. I don't need to do everything the same. I think that'll be right. I am going to pause the video and I'm going to quickly dry these with my hairdryer, and I'm going to put this in some water so that it doesn't dry out on me. Back in 2 seconds, guys. So they're dry. They're not probably dry all the way through to the core, but they've got their stability back, should I say, because you'll find that envelope paper is really thin, and when it gets moist or wet, it's going to get really, really soft. So as you know, I kind of like to do 3 layers of paint before I put mark making to work. So I need one more layer, but that is literally just the way I work. It doesn't have to be that, guys. It really doesn't have to be. I just like to do 3 layers. So looking at these, what colour do I want to put? Let's put some of this caramel colour. I seem to be falling in love with this caramel colour. How do I want to put it on? I mean, I could just put it back on with a sponge, couldn't I? Sponge may give me some nice texture anyway. So I'm not going to use a bit with the green. I'm now going to use this squared edge. And part of that will be because the sponge itself may leave me a design. And I tend to pat it a couple of times just so that the excess is taken off. I mean, when you're doing stuff without equipment, you will find you'll be able to create far quicker. Or I do anyway, because I'm not worried about, oh, this has got to be cleaned up, that's got to be cleaned up, this has got to be washed off. I don't have to worry about that. I really do not have to worry about that. So this one feels like it hasn't got enough paint on it. This may have to have another bit of something put onto it. It feels a bit Spartan, but you know what? I said about white space being okay. We'll see what happens once it's finished. I may need to not put something on it. Right, that's 2. Let's get this one done. And I might have to change to another colour, because if I'm having to refill my ink supply, which is that over there, I might as well go ahead and change colour. The good thing about using envelopes that like come with greetings cards and stuff like that is they don't have any writing on them. So when you're using things like recycled envelopes, or as I was when I was doing the window envelopes, I had to work out how to conceal the writing if that was bothering me. It doesn't bother me with these because they're all white. Right, I think, what have I got here? I think we could do some blue of some sort on here. What's this? This is teal. Let's put some teal on here. So, oh, it's another metallic. Ooh, I have to be really careful because I've just picked up orange, or that caramel colour, so I have to be careful that these don't turn totally brown on me. That is one thing I should be a little more aware of, and that is, am I colour mixing as I'm using my sponge, which I tend to be doing at the moment, so I have to be a little more cautious about that. And I do think I want to put some white on these, because I tend to put white on things once I've done all my colours, but how I'm going to do it, I'm not really sure yet. But we'll come up with something, guys. We'll come up with something. Right, almost there with that. Actually, I've already had an idea. Let's just finish this off. Now, when it comes to doing the envelopes, for me, it's all about the visual texture of things. Right, that's getting a bit muddy for me, but that's fine. Right, this could be washed, but I'm not going to wash it. It's going in the bin. I'm done with this now. I mean, I don't need to save this. I don't normally use them, so I'm not using it for this video. Let's just give my hands a little bit of a wipe. So I'm just going to pull in some white, and then I'm going to use my credit card or store card or gift card to smear it out a bit, because I don't want huge amounts of this. And then what I'm going to do is, let's bring in this one. I'm going to use this to create blocks of texture. And I do have to press down quite firmly because obviously it's a textured piece. And then I'm going to press it down, and this will give me interesting areas. I mean, if you are using a gel plate, you can do this very same thing with the gel plate. You could roll this out onto a surface with a gel plate on it. And I am going to do white on all of them because I just want to give them a little lightness. But as you can see, It really does give it something different. Oh, I apologise for that very unfortunate noise. Let's leave that up there. Let's grab the next one. Now, when I'm looking for areas, I'm looking for areas that look as if they're quite blocky areas. I don't mind that there's white on this envelope. I wish it was a little less white in certain areas, but I'm okay with that because we've got a long way to go yet. So, see, just breaking that down. I think I need to reload my paper space. I do work in threes. You don't have to work in threes. It helps me when I create. I feel that 3 is the right number to be doing for me. But you don't have to, as I've said, there aren't rules. There are guidelines. Guidelines basically are there to help you, but not to restrict you. Like the rule of thirds, or the golden rule in composition, or perspective lines in design, stuff like that. They're all there to help you. But if you wish to draw things in a completely different way, there's no one going to say no. They might frown on it, but that's because they're not open-minded enough to take in what you're creating, which may be completely unique to them. See, getting that lovely texture on there. Right, just got these two to go, so I don't want to add more paint than I actually have to. And down to the last one. If I happen to be doing the same thing on each envelope, it's not conscious, other than it's a group of threes. My brain, because I'm slightly affected by OCD, means that I lean on pattern and structure as almost a comfort blanket when I create. Okay, I'm all right with those. Those looking all right. I've got plenty of stuff down there. Do I want to do anything with it? Yes, maybe I do, because I don't want to waste anything. Right, I've got this bit of corrugated cardboard. You've seen me use corrugated cardboard before. Let's see if I can pick up any of this and get anything onto anything. Yes, I can. Let's just put that on the front of the different envelopes. Well, I've still got enough of it to use. So the process is pretty much identical to what I did with the equipment. It's just not using the equipment, which I think is interesting. I mean, I do like to mark make, as you've seen in most of my videos. I will grab something and use it for a mark making tool. And don't forget, guys, if you've got straight lines, by turning something 90 degrees, you've also got a grid. So let's just stick a grid on that one. So I think we're at the point where I can safely say we've got all the background colours on here. Let's make this one a grid as well. And I'm at the point now where I'm almost certain I should dry these because they're getting a bit sticky. I don't want them sticking to anything other than, well, I don't want them sticking to anything. So that was me just using corrugated card. So time to pause you again and time to get these dry. So the envelopes are pretty much dry. They're definitely dry enough for me to work upon. Now I want to try and do different forms of mark making just to show you what you could utilise and how you could utilise it along the way. Not really substitutes for other things, but there might be a few surprises. I never thought of doing that. So I think I need to bring in just a different colour for one of the envelopes. Let's choose this one. Right, I think I'm going to come in. Let's put some red down. I do like a touch of red. This is sort of a burgundy type of red. This feels very liquid. Let's just use this. I only need a little bit of each, because I'm not going to do a lot. I want to just show little bits. So I've just got a cork from a bottle. And if I like repeated patterns on things. Doesn't mean you have to, but I just find that if I repeat the pattern, it looks more purposeful than if I don't. And at this point, I'm not worried I've only got 3 of things, because don't forget the flap will be folded over. So let's turn it over the other side and put a few on this side. My final mark making will be with black, because I just like the way that looks. So there you go, that's my first one done. Let's move that to one side. It's not done, that's the first one at that stage. Right, I do have this book that I'm using up bits of spare paint on, so I tend to use things like spare book pages, and then I'll use them later on in my art journals or my art supplies, just because I won't waste paint, to be honest with you. So that was just a regular cork. What can I do next? Right, bit of string. Okay, let's pull in something that's going to work. Oh, she's that one's here. Let's use that. What should we do colour-wise? Want something with a bit of oomph to it. Let's do orange. Orange, green and pink. There's a combination. Right. Let's put that down. Now, what I'm going to do is I've got the inside of a roll, paper roll, and I've got a couple of pegs. So I'm just going to come in. Now, if you wanted to keep this as a permanent thing, you could always glue this to this roll. I'm not. I'm just doing it for the purposes of this video. So I'm just going to wind it all the way to the end. And I'm just going to stick a peg in that end. And about the same distance, stick a peg in the other. So I've got something like this to work upon. So I'm just going to smear this paint around a little bit so I can get in to pick it up. And I'm just going to come in, I'm going to roll in this and roll it on. And this will just give me marks. It mirrors the lined marks I've already got there. That just happens to be the way it is. But it gives me a grungy look. It just gives me something interesting on there. Now, if I'd have stuck this down to this roll, I could easily have rolled it completely and had longer pieces, but I'm okay with that. So there you go. So that's given me some marks on there. Give that a little bit by there. Let's put that one to one side. Let's take the pegs off there so I know where this is. I don't want to stick into this tube because I quite like this tube. That can go into there for later. Right, again, I've got stuff over here. So let's just keep building up this page. Now, for the person who said, could I show them how to make envelopes? This is the sort of thing I would eventually make an envelope from. Bits of paper like this, or book pages. Right, so let's bring in the next one with the next idea. Now, I'm going to stay with the string theme. And I think I want to go with something quite dark. What's this? This is very dark, isn't it? Right. Again, I'm smoothing it out. Now, I tend to smooth it out so that I don't end up with huge globs of stuff. And I'm literally going to take a fingerful of string, however I want to gather it together. I'm just going to use it as a stamp. And it will give me an unusual look on my envelope. Just something, and if it comes unraveled, I don't mind. It's putting visual texture in here. I mean, I could have done the same thing, got a similar pattern with a stencil maybe, but this way I'm not. I'm just using stuff I'm finding around the house. So it takes a bit more off there. So there you go. And when you see the finished envelopes, it's amazing what you can actually get done with just things like that. Let's clean off this again. And I know I've said it a few times before, and I'm sure must have said it in this video already. It's okay to play. It's okay to do something that you're not sure is going to work. just have play. That's how so many things became invented in the first place, is because someone just had a go. Someone just played with it. Right, I wanted one with a bit of green in it. Let's use this one for the next bit of what I'll do. I need to find a green. That's a very dark green. Let's do this one. Half of these bottles, it says one thing on the outside, and it's not actually that thing on the inside. So, and this one's nearly out. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to bring in some kitchen foil, scrunch it up, unscrunch it slightly, and scrunch it up again. And what this will do is don't press it too hard. You just need to get stuff on here and just tap it in and give yourself patches of visual texture again. I must admit, when I'm doing a big print, this is one of my favourite things to do because it just gives you such randomness. I do like this effect, especially if I'm going to do something for a botanical journal. And actually thinking about it, I'm going to do it on this one as well. If you were to add, if you say did this and then you added another yellowy green over the top, it would give a completely different, actually, why don't I do that? Less talk, more do, Griffiths. So if I now come in with a yellowy green, like this is quite a pungent green. Don't need a lot of that. If I just come in now, if I change this around a bit, I will get a different set of prints. So I'm going to come in, and if I just go over the top, it really gives almost a woodland feel. It looks like leaves in a forest where the highlights from the sunshine is on it. So just know by same technique, different colour combinations. Like if I put a rabbit or something in the middle of that, that would look so at home as a woodland scene. And I like that so much, I'm going to use up the remainder of that paint on here. There you go. See, it looks like a fairy glade or something like that. Right, down to the last one here for this. Now, this next one is a little bit bizarre for you, but it just makes you think of something different when we do it. So I need to clean up that, don't I? Or else I'm going to have colours I don't want. Just picking that up. There it is. See, it looks grungy, believe me. Eventually that will look fantastic. So I'm going to come in. What colour do I want on this? Let's have a think. Let's come in with this. It's sort of a deepish type pink. Let's put it up here. Oh, it's a pearl. Okay. This is just a mixed bottle of stuff. So I'm going to spread this out a bit. I'm going to use something I have used before. Not with you, but I've used before myself. And that is the bottom of an egg carton. I'm just going to come in, pick up bits of it. It doesn't have to be a perfect imprint. I just want marks on here. I mean, how much packaging do you have in your home each week that actually you could turn into something to stamp with? I mean, that's interesting. That's just so interesting. I think I'm going to put a bit of it there. So right, I get a little bundle of inexpensive earbuds, the earpods. Know what these? No, these are earbuds, aren't they? And I'm going to take a length of washi tape. I'm just going to tap them down so they're relatively together, and then I'm just going to wind these up in the washi tape. And it's purely just so I've got a handle on it, and I'm going to tap them down. Then I'm going to press these into the table so I'm flattening the ends slightly. I'm just going to come in, then I'm going to choose a paint, and I think we're going to go with white because I like white. It breaks stuff up. Let's put it down by here. I have to check that I've got more white somewhere. I think I do. So just going to smooth that out. just because then I'm going to come in, and just by dabbing the ends down, it gives me an interesting pattern on my envelope. It's not bubble wrap, but you know what? If you've not got bubble wrap, it will do. It gives you those little areas you can just delve into. So I'm going to do that on each of the envelopes because I like doing this anyway. And you know I like bubble wrap, so more the merrier in my opinion. Obviously you can do it in any colours you wish. I'm just doing white because it is what it is. Now this one I might do white over the top of the brown, so that will knock the brown back, so that I've got interest behind other interest. Let's do the one I've just done. As I said before, I'm working quickly because I don't need to not work quickly. Now if I put these on here, it'll add more to the illusion of maybe flowers. And the last one here, I haven't done this one. Right, did I do the front of that one? I don't know that I did. Now this you can keep. I mean, put it somewhere. Well, you can keep all of the mark making if you really wish. But this one's a keeper because the more it builds up the paint, the better it becomes. So I'm just going to spread this about. Okay, that's another page finished. And they're dry. Well, they're as dry as they need to be. So now I'm going to work on the last sections, which for me is using black and using mark making to add some drama. So I'm going to do that quite simply with some of these, but get the black down. Again, I'm going to smooth it out because you don't want the paint too thick when you pick it up, because otherwise that just causes you problems. So, right. So let's come in with this one. Right. I've got the inside of a roll of paint. So I'm just going to pick it up on my roll and I'm just going to add in marks onto here. And this one might be finished. Just going to put it by. We'll look at all of them once everything's done. So we've done that with a bit of mark making. Let's just get rid of that so I don't put my hand in it because it's got black on it. Right, this one. Now, you may already have this in your home somewhere. If not, you can get it really inexpensively. It's a non-slip mat. A non-slip mat from the pound shop or the dollar store. And what it does, it just gives you the most amazing checkered marks. If you turn it up the other way, however, it gives you a different sort of mark. So just be aware that if you're buying something like a plastic mat or something to use, try stamping with both sides of it, because it could be you get an interesting effect on the opposite side. A little bit more down there and a little bit up there. And we'll come back to that one in a minute, possibly. Right, so that's another one I would use. Now, this one is tricky, okay? I'm just going to be completely honest with you. If you get your hands on a plastic doily, this is a paper one, or you get your hands on a fabric doily, this works better. But it doesn't mean you can't do it with a paper one. You just have to be quick and you have to be confident. You press it down and lift it. You're not looking to imprint the doily. What you want is the random marks the doily will leave. After a few minutes, it's going to start falling to pieces on me. But that's okay, because what it's done is it's given... Oh, I've got two of them there. I didn't know I had two. I can go back. It can just give me random markings. So it gives me that grungy look. Now, if your doily hasn't fallen to pieces, this one hasn't, if you let it fully dry, it will be stronger for the next time it's used. So just be aware those sort of things exist as well. Let's put that up there. Right. I've got enough black here? Maybe I have. So this was just part of a pot holder that I had. It's a silicone pot holder. Just something you can use. You might even have an old one. You might see one in the garage somewhere, say you were cleaning out. It's just basically something to lift a pot out of the oven with. So it's anything that's got a mark on it, guys. Just look around. You'd be surprised. From here on in, you'll be looking at your garbage in a completely different light, I can assure you. Right, what haven't we tried? Right, I've got some thinner corrugated cardboard this time. I don't know what this came with, but it was obviously a different size than the previous one I showed you. Smear that out. Pick some up. See, just gives you something of interest. And on the last one, as I discussed before, if you've got straight lines and you go in the opposite direction, you've then created a grid. So, right. So that's another one of those. Now, there are other things you can do, guys. Like, if you've got a bit of cardboard, you could just run this cardboard through your paint and then press it down and it gives you lines. Just simple things like that. So don't think you're stuck with that. There is one more thing I want to do before I finish up for the day. And that is, I've got packaging. As you can see, it's a cereal box. So I'm going to cut this cereal box panel down, and we're just going to finish off. And what I want to do is I want to roll this. It doesn't have to be a perfect roll. I'm just creasing the edge and then rolling it over. I am rolling it reasonably tight, but I am going to let it spring back afterwards. So there you go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some black down. Last bit of black, I hope, because I've got it everywhere, guys. I've got it everywhere. Again, smear it out so I can pick it up. And say we've got this one. If I take the end of this, it just gives me interesting somethings. See what I mean? It just gives me an interesting pattern within it. Now, it depends on how tightly you hold this as to how tightly the design stays. It depends on how much paint you've got on any sections of it as to how tightly this will be wound. You can do whatever you wish with it. I love using like Cardiff, what am I talking about? That's where I live. Card rolls. Also, just because it's wound up doesn't mean it can't be unwound. And just pick up stuff and stick it down. Just give yourself interesting shapes. All of these are just visual interest. I mean, you may think, my God, what's he doing? But you know what? That's given me something on there I didn't have before. So stuff like that, guys, just have a go. And they're finished and they're dried. It's getting really rainy and dark out there, so I'm hoping the colours show okay. So let's have a quick flick through. So let's just fold the tops back. So as you can see, guys, you don't need a ton of equipment and stencils and stamps and anything to make painty envelopes. You really, truly, honestly do not. You saw me do absolutely every piece of this. I didn't use anything more technical than a paintbrush, when I could have actually not used the paintbrush at all and just wiped down the glue with a painty finger. Everything else were things I had around the house, would have had around the house, or what people would normally have around the house. The only thing that's probably a bit is maybe the pot holder, but there are other things. Look at those clear mats you put in the bottom of the shower. Look at the ones you put in the kitchen sink, the draining board stuff there. those non-slip mats for that. Look at that sort of stuff. You'd be amazed at what's got a pattern on it. But as I said, what's going to happen now is when you start going through the trash to throw it out, you're going to start noticing things in the trash and go, oh, I'm going to put that to one side and put that to one side. And your significant other is going to hate me in a few months because you're going to have a whole box of what they consider junk to one side, but to you, they're absolute treasures. I like how that turned out, actually. They're absolute treasures for your mark making work. So there you go. And I just scratched the surface, guys. And don't forget, guys, you got these. Well, hopefully you've got these. You can do finger painting. You can scrunch your fist up and do marks with it. Use your knuckles. You can do anything to get paint marks onto something. So hopefully you enjoyed this. For the person who said, can I show what you can do without equipment, I hope this is exactly what you were looking for. So I'm Ceri the Crafter, and that's Ceri the Crafter. Until next time, goodbye now.